So today we're going to conclude our review and let you work most of the hour. So a very light day for you. A few conceptual questions. If we get through these, this is kind of your warm-up right here, because the only last couple sections we had were solving systems of equations with 3 variables, which we already kind of talked about, right? Solving systems of equations, so nothing tricky there. And then what you did the last section, which was solving absolute value inequalities or equations by graphing, which you also found quite easy. So nothing too tricky there. Speaking of, number 1, how do you solve absolute value equations and inequalities by graphing? What do? You get everything to one side, right? Compare it to 0. Seems to be the recurring theme for graphing stuff. Compare it to 0, set equal to 0, etc. And then you see where it crosses the x-axis. That is what a 0 is. And whatever that number is, those the numbers, that's the key kind of thing to your question. If they were looking for something less than 0, where would you be looking for all the places where the graph is below the x-axis? If they were looking for something greater than 0, you'd be looking for all the places where it's above the x-axis. And if it was where it's equal to 0, that's exactly where it crosses the axis. So basically, it's a visual argument right there, and you look it up, and it's nothing too terrible. That's kind of all there is to that. Number 2, what material in this unit do you find the hardest to remember, guys? Okay, it's just your day. Anything that you're stuck on? Anything you're having trouble with? Anything? Don't be bashful. I don't want you to do badly on the test. Anything? Anybody? And number 3 is, what problems do you have the hardest time with? So is there any particular problem you're stuck with? Anything?
21.
Number 1?
21.
I was going to say, I don't think you would say number 1. 21. Let's look at that. Oh, that is gross. Sure. Let's do 21. Let's go ahead and get you guys writing down your learning goals while I get prepped for doing 21, and then we can use the rest of the hour to touch things up. Beg you to study this thing. Beg you to study it. Monday tests are always scary. A lot of kids will just go home and do nothing, and then 70% of the stuff will leave their brain. But I think you guys are more intelligent than that, and we'll at least look it over. Okay. Right. So learning goals today, just kind of finish up your review and all that kind of stuff. Remember that the review assignment is due on Monday, because your test is due on Monday, so have them both ready to go. And hopefully they're both ready to go before you even leave class today, at least the review, so you're ready to go. Okay, 21. I got the system of equations. You got x plus 2y plus 3z equals 10 for one of them. You got negative 2x plus 5z equaling negative 3. And you finally got 6x plus 6y minus z equals 22. So you start as usual, right? Solve for something. I would assume probably most people chose x up here. I would too. So up here at equation 1, x is negative 2y minus 3z when you move to the other side. But the other side still got that 10. I didn't change signs. And of course, once you solve for something, you're going to plug it in the other ones. So equation 2 will now read negative 2 times x, which is now negative 2y minus 3z plus 10. And that's plus 5z, and that is negative 3. Equation 3, plugging things in, you got 6x, and now x is negative 2y minus 3z plus 10. And then plus your 6y's minus your z's, and it equals 22. So, like normal, you probably got down to 2 equations and 2 unknowns. They're disgusting, though. So let's go ahead and take 2. Let's go ahead and take 2 seconds to clean this thing up. Y's, I see positive 4y's here, so 4y. Z's, I see from this distribution positive 6z, but 5 more z's would be 11 z's. And there are some numbers here. I see negative 2 times 10, that's negative 20, which you'll probably add to the other side and make it positive 20. And positive 20 plus negative 3 is 17. Equation 3, cleaning it up, let's see some y stuff. I got negative 12y here from distribution. Got 6y there. That's a grand total of negative 6y. Z's, I'm seeing negative 18 minus 1 more, so negative 19 z's. And there are some numbers over here. There's a 6 times a 10, so that's 60. But of course, we'll subtract that over the other side. And 22 minus 60 is negative 38. So here's my setup for this. Ooh, that's pretty gross. Nothing easy to do with that. I think maybe I'm feeling some elimination, and I'm not thinking solving for anything is at all easy on this stuff. And there's nothing good to eliminate. I'm going to eliminate the y's. So I'm going to multiply the top one through by 6 and the bottom one through by 4 and see what happens. So equation 2 multiplied by 6 would be 24y plus 66z. And I'm not going to take any chances. 17 times 6 is, in fact, 102. Equation 3 multiplying through by 4, we'd have negative 24y. 19 times 4, I believe, that makes sense. It's negative 76. And over on the other side, negative 38 times 4 is negative 152. So we have this all set and ready to go. If we add the two equations, then the 24y and the negative 24y will cancel out. So you got 66z's plus negative 76z's. That's negative 10z's. Over on the right, if you add those together, 102 plus negative 152 is negative 50. So dividing through by negative 10, it looks like z is 5. Did you get z is 5? Sweet. Okay. I assume you're just checking it, right?
No, I couldn't figure out.
The other ones?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go see what y might be then. I'll just use this equation here. It's got a y and a z in it. I know what z is, so I can figure out what y is. So 4y plus 11z, z was 5. 11 times 5 is 55. That equals 17. Move the 55 over to the other side. 17 minus 55, I don't feel like thinking much, is negative 38. Ew. I see why you question this. So you divide both sides by 4, and ew, 4 doesn't go into 38. So you're not getting a pretty nice number. That's terrible. Oh, no. Well, nonetheless, we get what we get. We can reduce this. 2 goes into both of them. So we can call that, how about negative 19 halves for y? So y is negative 19 halves. Ew. That is suspicious, so I'm going to double check myself real quick. 4y plus 11z, z was 55, 17, moved it over. Okay, it is what it is. So we got y and z. Now we go back up the chain and find x. I like this dude right here. It says x equals something. So x equals negative 2 times y. Unfortunately, y is negative 7. Oh, actually, that's not unfortunate at all. Negative 17 halves. Minus 3z. Z was 5. Plus 10. And, oh, look at this. You have a 2 and a divided by 2. What do those do? They just cancel out. So your final answer is going to be negative 19, which is 19, right? Minus 15 plus 10. That's 4. So x must be 14. So I'm getting 14, negative 9 halves, and 5. That's a little suspicious of an answer to me. So if I was on a test and I got something weird like that, I would pick one equation at random, type these in, and actually make sure it works. I'll pick the last one, for example. So I'm going to do 6 times x, 6 times 14, plus 6 times y times negative 19 halves, and then minus the z. And I do get 22. So that's a really good sign if it solves one of them. If I'm really paranoid, I check it solves all 3 of them. I'm going to do that too, because that is a very funky answer. I'm going to check equation 2. And when I type in stuff for equation 2, I get negative 3. And for the first one, when you type in 14 plus 2 times negative 19 halves plus 3 times z, I get 10. So I know I'm right. It is correct. As suspicious and as weird as that answer is, it is valid. Good question on that. Fractions are always a little bit suspicious, but it is what it is and it works. Good question. Anything else, guys? Okay. Then the rest of the hour is yours to touch this thing up and get it all ready to go for Monday. You got any questions individually? Of course, you're welcome to come up and ask me then. And that's pretty much all for today. Study it over the weekend. Finish it up today. Should be great to go on Monday as long as you look it over and don't forget everything.